Tonight we're watching events out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where President Trump's political campaign rally comes at a crucial moment for him and for the country. The president trying to convince voters he deserves 4 more years in office. The country reeling from a pandemic that is by no means over and witnessing weeks of protest demanding true racial justice. Joining us now, the president of the National Urban League, Marc Morial. He's the author of the Gumbo Coalition, 10 leadership lessons that help you inspire, unite, and achieve. Marc, thanks for writing this book. As you know, Tulsa was home to one of the most violent race massacres in American history. This week, President Trump threatened to use force against protesters there. Walk us through the historic moment we're seeing right now and give us your context.
So, originally, the administration and the president were tone deaf to schedule this rally on Juneteenth without any sort of understanding, without any acknowledgement, without any respect for what Juneteenth represented. I also believe that there's been no acknowledgement in these times of the massacre that took place in Tulsa, one of the worst massacres of black people in the 20th century. Tonight's events for the president are a self-inflicted fiasco. The president promised extravagantly, and he'll deliver meagerly. He promised a huge crowd, up to 1 million people, and now he's having a hard time filling the arena. What it shows is that he's like a pilot who flies into a storm, even though the radar system says you shouldn't. What's been happening in Tulsa and in Oklahoma the last several days is that coronavirus cases have been spiking. And the rally has no protective conditions imposed on people. Voluntary use of masks. So I think people are using good judgment and common sense and staying away from what could be a super spreader event. But this is self-inflicted. This is poor decision-making to go ahead and seek to push, even though people and in his own administration, the Centers for Disease Control, have warned against massive events for fear that coronavirus would spread greatly. So this is a self-inflicted fiasco.
The president this week, Marc, also said that he made Juneteenth very famous. His words, very famous. When you heard that, what did you think?
I cringe, Wolf, but I said this is classic Donald Trump. His own lack of knowledge. In his own narrow way, he said, I made it famous. What he was really saying is, I, for the first time, learned about Juneteenth. Juneteenth has been recognized since 1865. It's recognized in 48 of the 50 states as, if not a paid holiday, as a day of recognition. And given the environment with George Floyd, the battles that we're now waging against racial injustice in this country, it's stunning that the nation's commander-in-chief, it's stunning that a president with access to hundreds and hundreds of staffers who could do basic research would not be knowledgeable of the fact that his own administration had previously issued proclamations on Juneteenth. So once again, is this a president who's even out of touch with what members of his own administration are doing in the case of coronavirus, in what his own administration is recommending should be the conduct of people in a time when we're still in a pandemic and we're still under a state of emergency.
Very quickly, because we're almost out of time, Marc, nationwide protests for racial justice in the U.S., they're now in their 4th week. Are you hopeful that we will see some major structural change?
I think the protests are going to have to continue, and Wolf, I'll be participating in a Fathers and Families protest tomorrow in Philadelphia, which begins at City Hall in Philadelphia around 11 o'clock. I think these protests, as an expression in the tradition of the great First Amendment to the Constitution, must and should continue, because they are bringing out and demonstrating, I think, to elected officials and people in positions of power the support there is for meaningful and substantial police reform, the support there is to attack and eradicate this nation of structural exclusion, structural discrimination, and structural racial injustice.
Well, good luck, Marc Morial of the National Urban League.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, as usual, for joining us.